The fluorescent lights of the 24-hour diner buzzed overhead, casting a harsh yellow glow across the cracked vinyl booths and worn linoleum floor. Chen wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that shift, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. At 23, she'd become an expert at functioning on 4 hours of rest and endless cups of burnt coffee. "Order up!" Jimmy called from the kitchen, his gruff voice cutting through the low murmur of the late-night crowd. Maya grabbed the plates, 2 burgers, extra pickles, no onions, and headed toward booth 7. The diner, Pete's Place, sat on the edge of Manhattan's financial district, caught in that strange limbo between the world of million-dollar deals and the reality of people who counted every dollar. Maya had been working here for 18 months now, ever since she'd moved to New York from San Francisco with nothing but a suitcase, a laptop, and a desperate need to disappear. "Here you go," she said, setting the plates down in front of the 2 college students who'd been studying for the past 3 hours, nursing the same sodas and taking advantage of the free refills. They mumbled their thanks without looking up from their textbooks, and Maya didn't take it personally. She'd been there once, before everything had fallen apart. Before her father had died. Before she'd learned that her mother's new husband wasn't just wealthy, he was dangerous. Before she'd run. Maya returned to the counter, pulling her phone from her apron pocket. No messages. That was good. No messages meant her stepfather's people hadn't found her yet. She'd been careful. So careful. Changing her appearance. Using cash whenever possible. Working jobs that didn't require extensive background checks. Pete had hired her on the spot when she'd walked in desperate and willing to work any shift, no questions asked. The bell above the door chimed, and Maya glanced up automatically, her waitress' smile already in place. Then it froze. 4 men walked in, and they were wrong. Everything about them was wrong. They wore expensive suits that didn't belong in a place like Pete's at 2 a.m. They moved with a coordinated precision that spoke of training, of purpose, and they were scanning the diner with the methodical intensity of people looking for something, or someone. Maya's heart started hammering against her ribs. She forced herself to breathe normally, to keep wiping the counter, to not react. Maybe they weren't here for her. Maybe this was just paranoia, the product of too many sleepless nights and too much looking over her shoulder. Then one of them made eye contact with her, and she saw the recognition flash across his face. No. She'd been so careful. The man reached into his jacket, and Maya didn't wait to see what he was reaching for. She dropped the rag and bolted toward the kitchen, her sneakers squeaking against the floor. "Hey!" Jimmy started to protest as she burst through the swinging door, but Maya was already running past him, heading for the back exit that opened onto the alley. Behind her, she heard shouting, the crash of something falling, footsteps pounding after her. She slammed through the back door into the alley, the cold November air hitting her face like a slap. The alley was narrow, dark, lined with dumpsters and the accumulated debris of the city. Maya ran left toward the street, her lungs already burning. She could hear them behind her, gaining. She wasn't fast enough. She'd never been athletic, had always been the girl with her nose in a book, and now that was going to get her caught. Maya burst out onto the sidewalk and nearly collided with a black Mercedes that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The back door flew open, and a voice, deep, authoritative, impossible to ignore, commanded, "Get in." It was the stupidest decision she'd ever made, or the smartest. Maya didn't have time to debate it. She threw herself into the back seat of the Mercedes, and the door slammed shut behind her. The car accelerated before she'd even fully landed on the leather seat, pressing her back against the cushions. "Down," the voice said, and a hand, large, strong, unmistakably male, pushed her head below the window line. "Stay down." Maya stayed down, her face pressed against expensive leather that smelled of cologne and something else, something darker that she couldn't identify. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her chest. She could hear shouting outside, fading as the car accelerated. "Status," the man said, and Maya realized he wasn't talking to her. An earpiece, probably. "4 hostels at the diner," a different voice responded, tinny through what must have been a speaker. "Armed. Salerno's people." Salerno. The name hit Maya like a physical blow. Vincent Salerno, her stepfather. "Shake them," the man in the car with her said calmly, as if ordering someone to lose armed pursuers was as casual as asking for coffee. "Then bring the car around to the safe house." Safe house. Maya's mind was racing, trying to process what was happening, trying to figure out if she'd just escaped one danger only to fall into another. The car took a sharp turn, and Maya braced herself against the seat. They were moving fast, weaving through traffic with a precision that suggested the driver had done this before, many times before. "You can sit up now," the man said, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Maya pushed herself up slowly, her hands shaking. She turned to look at her rescuer, or captor, she wasn't sure which, and felt her breath catch. He was young, probably late 20s or early 30s, with dark hair styled in that effortlessly perfect way that suggested money and attention to detail. His suit was immaculate, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, and the watch on his wrist probably cost more than she'd made in the past year. But it was his eyes that caught her. Dark, intelligent, assessing her with an intensity that made her feel simultaneously exposed and protected. "Who are you?" Maya managed to ask, her voice coming out rougher than she'd intended. "The person who just saved your life," he replied, his tone matter-of-fact rather than boastful. "I'm Alessandro Romano, and you're Maya Chen, though you've been going by Mary Collins for the past 18 months. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "How do you—" "I've been looking for you," Alessandro said, cutting her off. He leaned back against the seat, studying her with those dark eyes. "Your stepfather has been looking for you too, obviously, but I found you first." "Why?" Maya asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Why were you looking for me?" Alessandro was quiet for a moment, and Maya saw something flicker across his face, an emotion she couldn't quite read. Regret? Sympathy? Something deeper? "Because," he said finally, his voice softer now, "I need to tell you something about your father. Your real father. Richard Chen." Maya's chest tightened. "My father died 2 years ago. Heart attack." "No," Alessandro said, and there was certainty in his voice, a weight that made her believe him even though she didn't want to. "He didn't." The car turned again, and Maya realized they were heading uptown, toward the Upper East Side, where people like her didn't live, where the buildings had doormen and the apartments had more square footage than entire houses in other parts of the country. "You're lying," Maya said, but her voice was weak, uncertain. "I wish I was," Alessandro replied. He pulled out his phone, swiped a few times, then handed it to her. "Look." Maya took the phone with trembling hands. The screen showed a photograph, recent based on the date stamp, just 3 weeks ago. It showed a man sitting in what looked like a hospital room or maybe a medical facility of some kind. He was thinner than she remembered, grayer, but there was no mistaking those eyes, that familiar slope of his nose, the way he held his shoulders even when sitting. Her father. Alive. "Where is he?" Maya whispered, unable to look away from the photograph. "Where is this?" "That's complicated," Alessandro said. He took the phone back gently. "Your father is being held by the Bratva, the Russian mob. He's been their prisoner for the past 2 years." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Maya pressed her hand against the car door, trying to ground herself, trying to make sense of what she was hearing. "That's impossible," she said. "We had a funeral. I saw his body." "You saw a body," Alessandro corrected quietly. "Not his body. Your mother identified it. Yes?" Maya's mind was racing back to that horrible day, to standing in the funeral home with her mother, to the closed casket because the heart attack had been so severe, so traumatic, that viewing wasn't recommended. Her mother had been insistent about that, had arranged everything so quickly, had married Vincent Salerno barely 6 months later. Oh my God, Maya breathed. My mother knew. Alessandro didn't confirm or deny, but the look in his eyes was answer enough. The car pulled to a stop in front of a building that screamed old money, limestone facade, elegant awning, a doorman who touched his cap and opened the car door without needing to be asked. "Come on," Alessandro said, sliding out of the car. "We need to get you inside." Maya followed on autopilot, her legs shaky, her mind still trying to process everything. The doorman nodded respectfully. "Good evening, Mr. Romano." And they entered a lobby that looked like something out of an architectural magazine, all marble and brass and understated elegance. They rode the elevator in silence. Alessandro stood with his hands in his pockets, watching the numbers climb, 10, 15, 20, 25, until they reached the penthouse level. The elevator opened directly into an apartment, because of course it did. Maya stepped into a space that was more art gallery than home, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Manhattan's glittering skyline. Modern furniture in shades of gray and white, abstract paintings that probably cost more than most people's houses, and a silence that felt heavy with wealth. "Sit," Alessandro said, gesturing toward a cream-colored sofa. "I'll get you something to drink. You look like you need it." Maya sat because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. She stared out at the city lights, at the thousands of windows representing thousands of lives, and tried to understand how hers had become this bizarre nightmare. Alessandro returned with 2 glasses of amber liquid. He handed her one and sat in the chair across from her, close enough to talk, but far enough to not feel threatening. "Bourbon," he said. "Drink it, it'll help." Maya took a sip and felt the burn slide down her throat. She wasn't much of a drinker, but right now, the heat of the alcohol was grounding, real. "Tell me everything," she said finally, her voice steadier now. "From the beginning. Why is my father a prisoner? Why did my mother fake his death? And why the hell did you save me tonight?" Alessandro took a drink from his own glass, and Maya saw him weighing his words carefully. "Your father," he began, "was a forensic accountant, one of the best in the world. He specialized in tracking money through complex international networks, finding hidden assets, untangling financial webs that most people couldn't even see." "I know," Maya said. "He worked for a consulting firm. He traveled a lot for work." "He did," Alessandro agreed. "But about 3 years ago, he took on a client who wasn't what they seemed. They said they were a legitimate corporation looking to audit their international holdings. In reality, they were a front for the Bratva. And your father uncovered something he wasn't supposed to find." Maya's hands tightened around the glass. "What did he find?" "Evidence of a massive money laundering operation," Alessandro said. "Billions of dollars moving through shell companies, offshore accounts, real estate holdings. Your father compiled everything meticulously, as he always did. And then he realized what he was looking at, who he was actually working for." "So they took him," Maya said quietly. "They tried to kill him first," Alessandro corrected. "Made it look like a heart attack. Got your mother to cooperate by threatening you. But they needed him alive because he'd hidden the evidence somewhere, encrypted it in a way that only he could access. So they staged the funeral, made everyone think he was dead, and they've been holding him ever since, trying to get him to give up the location of the files." "Why hasn't he told them?" Maya asked. "After 2 years." "Because the moment he does, he's useless to them," Alessandro said simply. "He's kept himself alive by convincing them that the decryption is complex, that it requires time, that he's making progress." but he's running out of ways to stall them. Maya felt tears burning at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back. And my mother? She's been living with this man, knowing her husband is alive? Your mother made a choice, Alessandro said, and his voice held a note of judgment that suggested what he thought of that choice. Salerno offered her protection, wealth, status. She took it. She's his wife now, Maya said bitterly. She married the man who's probably working with the people holding my father prisoner. Actually, Alessandro said, and his expression darkened, Salerno is actively trying to find your father. The Bratva and the Italian families aren't exactly on friendly terms. If Salerno gets to your father first, he'll torture the location of those files out of him and use the evidence to destroy his competitors. Your father dies either way. Maya set down her glass because her hands were shaking too badly to hold it. Why are you telling me this? Why did you find me? Alessandro stood and walked to the windows, his hands in his pockets, his shoulders tense. For a long moment, he didn't speak, just stared out at the city. Because, he said finally, turning to face her, I'm Richard Chen's son. The world stopped. Maya stared at him, certain she'd misheard, certain the bourbon had gone to her head, certain this was all some elaborate nightmare. What? She whispered. Your father had another family, Alessandro said, and she could see the difficulty in saying the words, the weight of them. Before he married your mother, before you were born. He was young, in his early 20s, and he had a relationship with my mother, Isabella Romano. Romano, Maya repeated numbly. That's an Italian name. My mother's family is one of the 5 families, Alessandro said quietly. Old school mafia, Brooklyn-based. My father, our father, didn't know about me until I was 5. My mother kept me secret. Kept him away, because she didn't want her family pulling him into their world. But when I turned 5, she got sick. Cancer. She needed help, and she told him about me. Maya felt like she was falling, like the expensive floor beneath her was opening up to swallow her whole. He was in my life after that, Alessandro continued. Not publicly. My mother's family couldn't know, and neither could his new family, you and your mother. But he was there. He taught me things, spent time with me when he could, sent money to make sure I had everything I needed. He tried to be a father to both of us. He cheated on my mother, Maya said, her voice hollow. No, Alessandro said firmly. He was with my mother years before your mother. He never cheated. But he also never told your mother about me. He kept us separate, kept his 2 lives from ever touching. Until now. Maya stood up, needing to move, needing to do something with the energy coursing through her body. You're telling me I have a brother, a half-brother, and he's part of the Mafia. I'm telling you, Alessandro said, his voice patient but firm, that we share a father, and that father is running out of time. The Bratva is losing patience, Salerno is getting closer, and you're the key to saving him. Me? Maya laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. What can I possibly do? I'm a waitress hiding from my stepfather. I'm nobody. You're Richard Chen's daughter, Alessandro said, moving closer to her. You're brilliant. Graduated from Stanford with a double major in computer science and cryptography at age 20. You worked for a cybersecurity firm before your father's death. You know encryption, you know security systems, and most importantly, you know how your father thinks. Maya turned to face him fully. You've been investigating me. I've been trying to find you for 18 months, Alessandro confirmed. Ever since I learned that Salerno was looking for you. Our father managed to get a message to me 6 months ago. Just 1 sentence. Maya has the key. I've been searching for you ever since. I don't have any key, Maya said, frustration bleeding into her voice. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe you do, and you don't realize it, Alessandro suggested. Or maybe he sent you something, told you something, that you didn't recognize as important at the time. Maya's mind was racing, going back through her last conversations with her father, the last time she'd seen him alive, or thought she'd seen him for the last time. They'd had lunch together, just the two of them, about a week before his death. He'd been distracted, she remembered, kept checking his phone. Seemed worried about something. He gave me a present, Maya said slowly, the memory surfacing. At that last lunch. He said it was an early birthday present, even though my birthday wasn't for another month. It was a necklace. This delicate gold chain with a small pendant. It was inscribed with coordinates. But I thought it was just the location where my parents got married. He said it was sentimental. Alessandro's eyes lit up. Do you still have it? Maya's heart sank. No. When I ran from Salerno, I left everything behind. Everything from my old life. The necklace was in my apartment in San Francisco. Salerno's people probably have it now. Alessandro pulled out his phone and sent a quick text. We can get it back. I have people who specialize in that sort of thing. You mean thieves? Maya said flatly. I mean specialists, Alessandro corrected with the hint of a smile. This is important, Maya. Those coordinates could be where your father hid the evidence, or they could be a location that means something to him, somewhere only you would understand the significance. Maya walked back to the sofa and sank down onto it. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. I know, Alessandro said, sitting down beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. I know this is a lot to process, but we don't have the luxury of time. The Bratva is getting desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. If I help you, Maya said slowly, if I somehow figure out what my father meant, what happens then? Then we get the evidence and we use it as leverage to negotiate his release, Alessandro said. The Bratva doesn't want that information going public any more than Salerno does. We arrange a trade, the files for your father. And you trust them to honor that deal? No, Alessandro said honestly. Which is why we'll have multiple copies of the evidence secured in different locations, with dead man switches set to release everything if something happens to any of us. We make it more dangerous for them to kill us than to let us live. Maya studied him. This man who was apparently her half-brother. This stranger who moved through a world of criminals and danger like it was normal. You've done this before. Negotiated with dangerous people. I grew up in that world, Alessandro said quietly. My grandfather was head of the Romano family. My uncle runs it now. I was groomed to take over someday. But I chose a different path. I work in finance, legitimate business. I keep one foot in both worlds, which makes me useful as a mediator, a bridge between the legitimate and illegitimate. But you're still part of it, Maya said. The violence, the crime, all of it. I'm not proud of where I come from, Alessandro said, meeting her eyes, but I am proud of what I've done with it. I've used my connections to help people, to prevent bloodshed, to keep innocent people from getting caught in the crossfire. And right now, I'm using those connections to try to save our father. Our father. The word still felt wrong, alien, but Maya couldn't deny the sincerity in Alessandro's voice, the determination in his eyes. Why should I trust you? She asked softly. Alessandro reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. He handed it to her. It showed a young boy, maybe 6 or 7, with dark hair and serious eyes, sitting next to a man Maya recognized instantly, her father, younger but unmistakable. They were at what looked like a baseball game, both wearing Yankees caps, both smiling at the camera. He took me to a game every year on my birthday, Alessandro said quietly. It was our tradition. He'd make up some business trip to explain his absence from your family, and he'd spend the day with me. Those were some of the best days of my life. Maya stared at the photograph, at the obvious affection between the man and the boy, at a side of her father she'd never known existed. He loved you, she said. He loved both of us, Alessandro replied. He was trying to do the impossible, be a father to two children from two different worlds, neither of whom could know about the other. It wasn't fair to anyone, least of all you and me. But he did the best he could. Maya handed the photograph back. If we do this, if we find this evidence and get my father back, then what? Where does he go? He can't exactly resume his old life. No, Alessandro agreed. He'll need a new identity, a new location, probably somewhere far from here. But he'll be alive. He'll be free. And maybe, for the first time, he won't have to hide who he is. And what about me? Maya asked. Salerno will still be looking for me. Salerno will have bigger problems, Alessandro said with a confidence that was almost frightening. Once we have the evidence, once we've used it as leverage, we'll make sure certain information gets to the right people. Salerno's operations will be exposed, his connections severed. He'll be too busy trying to avoid prison to worry about you. It was insane. All of it. But what was the alternative? Keep running? Live the rest of her life as Mary Collins, hiding in diners and cheap apartments, always looking over her shoulder? Or worse, do nothing and let her father, who is apparently alive and suffering, die for real this time? Okay, Maya said finally. I'll help you. But I have conditions. Alessandro nodded. Name them. First, I want proof. Real proof. Not just a photograph. That my father is alive and where you say he is. Done, Alessandro said. I can arrange a video call. Short, monitored by his captors, but enough for you to see he's alive and confirm what I've told you. Second, Maya continued, if we do this, if we get him out, I want protection for both of us. Real protection. The kind that means we never have to run again. You'll have it, Alessandro promised. My family's resources. My personal guarantee. Third, Maya said, holding his gaze, I want the truth. About everything. No more secrets, no more hidden families or double lives. If we're doing this, if we're risking everything, then I want complete honesty. Alessandro was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Complete honesty. I can do that. Maya took a deep breath. Then let's start now. Tell me everything about our father. The real story, not the version he told my mother or the version your family knows. Everything. Alessandro glanced at his watch. It's almost 4 a.m. This conversation is going to take a while. I work the night shift, Maya said with a trace of bitter humor. I'm used to staying up all night. Alessandro smiled, the expression transforming his face, making him look younger, less dangerous. Coffee? Please. He stood and walked toward what Maya assumed was the kitchen. Make yourself comfortable. This is going to be a long night. Maya leaned back against the sofa, her mind still reeling from everything she'd learned. She had a brother. Her father was alive. Her mother had betrayed them all. And she was now sitting in a penthouse apartment with a man who was apparently part of the Mafia, planning to take on Russian mobsters and her stepfather's criminal empire. Her life had become a terrible movie, but maybe, just maybe, it was a movie that could have a happy ending. Alessandro returned with 2 steaming mugs of coffee and settled back into his chair. Our father's story really begins with my mother, he started. Isabella Romano was the youngest daughter of Domenico Romano, head of the Romano crime family. She was supposed to marry into another family, a strategic alliance. But she met Richard Chen at Columbia University, where they were both students. As Alessandro talked, his voice low and measured, Painting a picture of a love story that was both beautiful and doomed, Maya found herself leaning forward, drawn in despite herself. Outside the windows, the city lights continued to sparkle, and somewhere out there, her father was waiting. Waiting for someone to save him. Waiting for his daughter to find the key he'd left her. And now, with this unexpected ally, this brother she'd never known existed, Maya was going to do exactly that. The game had changed. And Maya Chen was no longer running. 3 days later, Maya stood in front of a mirror in Alessandro's penthouse, barely recognizing herself. Gone was the exhausted waitress with dark circles under her eyes. In her place stood a woman in an elegant black dress, her hair professionally styled, wearing makeup that made her look sophisticated and confident. Everything she didn't feel. "You look perfect," Alessandro said, appearing behind her in the reflection. He was in a tuxedo, looking every inch the wealthy businessman he claimed to be. "Ready?" Maya touched the necklace at her throat. Her father's necklace, retrieved by Alessandro's specialists from her old apartment. The coordinates engraved on the pendant had led them to a safety deposit box in a small bank in New Jersey. Inside, they'd found a USB drive encrypted with a password only Maya could figure out. Her childhood nickname combined with Alessandro's birthday, proof that their father had always carried both his children in his heart. The drive contained everything: years of financial records, encrypted communications, names, dates, transactions. Enough evidence to bring down not just the Bratva's money laundering operation, but connections to corrupt officials, legitimate businesses, and dozens of criminal enterprises across 3 continents. It was a nuclear bomb, digitally encoded. "As ready as I'll ever be," Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. Tonight was the exchange. Alessandro had arranged a meeting at a neutral location, an art gallery in Soho during a private exhibition. Dozens of witnesses, security cameras, enough public visibility to discourage outright violence. The Bratva would bring her father. Alessandro and Maya would bring the encryption keys to the evidence, and hopefully, everyone would walk away alive. They arrived at the gallery in a black town car, joining a stream of Manhattan's elite dressed in designer clothes and dripping with jewelry. The gallery was sleek and modern. All white walls and dramatic lighting, displaying abstract sculptures that probably cost more than most people's houses. "Stay close," Alessandro murmured as they entered, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. "My people are positioned throughout the room. You'll be safe." Maya scanned the crowd, trying to spot which of the elegant art patrons were actually Alessandro's security. She couldn't tell, which she supposed was the point. "There," Alessandro said quietly, nodding toward the far end of the gallery. Maya's heart stopped. Her father stood near a massive white sculpture, flanked by 2 large men in dark suits. He looked older, thinner, his hair now completely gray, but it was him. Alive. Real. "Dad," she whispered, taking an involuntary step forward. Alessandro caught her arm. "Not yet. We do this right, or we don't do it at all." A man detached himself from the group near her father and walked toward them. He was older, maybe 60, with iron-gray hair and cold blue eyes. Everything about him radiated danger. "Mr. Romano," the man said in accented English, "and this must be Miss Chen. I am Victor Petrov." "Mr. Petrov," Alessandro replied smoothly, "thank you for agreeing to meet." "You have something I want," Petrov said bluntly. "I have something you want. Let us conduct our business and part as, not friends, but not enemies. Show us that Richard Chen is unharmed and capable of leaving with us," Alessandro said. "Then we'll discuss terms." Petrov gestured, and the 2 guards brought Maya's father forward. Up close, she could see the toll 2 years of captivity had taken. The lines around his eyes, the tremor in his hands, the way he moved like a man much older than his 55 years. But when he saw Maya, his eyes filled with tears. "Maya," he said, his voice cracking. "My little girl, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." Maya couldn't hold back anymore. She stepped forward, and her father pulled her into an embrace that felt like coming home after a long, terrible journey. "It's okay, Dad," she whispered against his shoulder. "We're going to fix this." "Both my children," her father said, pulling back to look at Alessandro, who had moved to stand beside Maya. "Together. I never thought I'd see this day." "We don't have time for reunions," Petrov interrupted coldly. "The encryption keys, Mr. Romano. Now." Alessandro pulled out a phone. "The evidence is stored in multiple locations: cloud servers, physical drives, safety deposit boxes in 4 different countries, all set to automatically release to every major news outlet, law enforcement agency, and government office if I don't enter a code every 12 hours. Petrov's expression darkened. "That was not our agreement." "Our agreement," Alessandro said, his voice like steel, "was that you would release Richard Chen in exchange for us not destroying your entire operation. I'm giving you the chance to walk away. The evidence stays secure as long as no one tries to harm my father, my sister, or me. Ever." "You think you can threaten the Bratva?" Petrov asked, his hand moving toward his jacket. "I think," Alessandro said calmly, "that you should look around this room very carefully before you do something you'll regret." Petrov's eyes swept the gallery, and Maya watched as recognition dawned on his face. The security guard by the entrance wasn't just any guard. The couple examining a sculpture were positioned perfectly to intercept. The bartender, the coat check attendant, even one of the artists, all of them were Alessandro's people. "The Romano family stands behind this agreement," Alessandro continued, "as do 3 other families. You kill any of us, and the evidence goes public. You come after us later, the evidence goes public. You so much as look at my family wrong, and everything you've built crumbles." "You would start a war," Petrov said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "No," Alessandro replied, "I'm preventing one. Take the deal, Victor. Walk away. Find another accountant, another money man. But leave my father alone." The tension in the room was suffocating. Maya held her father's hand, feeling his pulse racing beneath her fingers. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and this elegant art gallery would become a bloodbath. Finally, Petrov nodded slowly. "You play a dangerous game, Mr. Romano, but I respect boldness." He looked at Maya's father. "Richard Chen, you are free to go. But know this: if that evidence ever surfaces, if one word of those files reaches the authorities, I will find you all. I will find everyone you love. And I will make you watch as I destroy them before I kill you." "Understood," Alessandro said evenly. "As long as you understand that the same applies to you. Leave us alone, and your secrets stay secret." Petrov gave a slight bow, then turned and walked away, his guards following. Maya watched them disappear into the crowd, her heart still hammering. "Is it over?" she asked. "Is it really over?" "Not quite," a new voice said. Maya turned to see her stepfather, Vincent Salerno, standing behind them with 4 men who definitely weren't art lovers. Her mother was with him, looking pale and frightened in a blue evening gown. "You've been busy, Maya," Salerno said, his voice smooth and dangerous. "Making deals with the Bratva, conspiring with the Romanos, and you brought my dead predecessor back to life. Impressive." "Vincent, please," Maya's mother said, her voice pleading. "Let them go. This doesn't concern you." "Doesn't concern me?" Salerno's laugh was sharp. "Your daughter has evidence that could destroy half the families in New York, including mine. That concerns me very much. Alessandro stepped forward, positioning himself between Salerno and Maya. The same deal applies to you, Salerno. The evidence stays buried as long as everyone stays peaceful. You think I'm afraid of some files? Salerno asked. You think I won't take that risk to eliminate a threat? I think, Alessandro said quietly, that you should ask your wife what happened to her husband when he crossed the wrong people. Because right now, you're making the same mistake Richard made, underestimating how much information can hurt you. Salerno's hand moved to his gun, and suddenly the gallery erupted into motion. Alessandro's people appeared from everywhere, weapons drawn but not yet aimed. Salerno's men had their hands on their weapons. The actual art patrons screamed and dove for cover. That's my dad! Maya shouted suddenly, her voice cutting through the chaos. She pointed at her father, her hand shaking. That's my dad, and I'm not losing him again. The words hung in the air, simple and desperate and true. Every gun in the room seemed to turn toward her. Dozens of weapons all pointing at the girl in the black dress who just wanted her father back. Time stopped. Then her mother stepped forward, moving to stand beside Maya, placing herself between her daughter and Salerno's gun. No, her mother said firmly. No more. I've made terrible choices. I've betrayed the man I loved. I've abandoned my daughter. But not anymore. You want to shoot someone, Vincent? Shoot me. But you're not touching my family. Salerno stared at his wife, shock and rage warring on his face. Think carefully, Alessandro said, his voice carrying across the silent gallery. Right now, this can still end peacefully. Everyone walks away. No one goes to prison. No one dies. But if you pull that trigger, if anyone fires a shot, this room becomes a war zone. And I guarantee you won't be one of the survivors. Maya watched the calculation happen behind Salerno's eyes. He was weighing risks, considering odds, trying to determine if revenge was worth his life. Finally, slowly, he lowered his gun. This isn't over, he said. But the threat was hollow now, the words of a man who knew he'd lost. Yes, Alessandro said firmly. It is. Salerno looked at Maya's mother one last time, something like regret crossing his face, then turned and walked away, his men following. The gallery remained silent for a long moment, weapons still drawn, everyone waiting to see if the peace would hold. Then Alessandro nodded, and his people began to withdraw, melting back into the crowd or simply leaving through various exits. Within minutes, the only people left were Maya, her father, her mother, and Alessandro. Is everyone always trying to kill you? Maya asked Alessandro, her voice shaky with released tension. Only on Tuesdays, he replied with a slight smile. Maya's mother approached her father tentatively. Richard, she said softly, I'm so sorry. For everything. I was weak and scared and You did what you thought you had to do to protect our daughter, her father said, though his voice was cool. I understand that, but I can't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Her mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you both to know. I never stopped loving you. Either of you. Actions matter more than words, Mom, Maya said quietly. You stood up for me tonight. That's a start. Her mother touched Maya's cheek gently. I'm going to make this right. I'm going to testify against Vincent. Help the authorities build their case. It's the least I can do. That's dangerous, Alessandra warned. I know, her mother said, but it's also right. And I've spent 2 years doing wrong. It's time to change that. She kissed Maya's forehead, nodded respectfully to Alessandro and Richard, and then walked away, her heels clicking against the gallery floor. Well, Maya's father said, looking between his 2 children, this is not how I imagined our first family reunion. Alessandro laughed. the sound surprising and genuine. Nothing about this family is conventional. Where do we go from here? Maya asked. The evidence is still out there? People still know it exists? We become the guardians of it, her father said. The three of us. We make it clear that as long as everyone plays nice, the evidence stays buried. But we also make copies, create more safeguards. We become the nuclear deterrent that keeps the peace. You want us to be blackmailers? Maya asked. I want us to be survivors, her father corrected gently. I've spent 2 years in a cage, Maya. I've had a lot of time to think about the choices I made, the secrets I kept. I tried to live 2 lives, and it nearly destroyed both of them. No more secrets. No more hiding. The three of us, together, honest with each other. That's the only way forward. Alessandro extended his hand to his father, then to Maya. Together then, the Chen Romano alliance. Maya took his hand, then her father's, feeling the connection between the three of them, broken family made whole in the strangest possible way. Together, she agreed. 6 months later, Maya stood in a different apartment, smaller than Alessandro's penthouse, but comfortable, with large windows overlooking a tree-lined Brooklyn street. She'd gone back to school, was finishing her degree in cybersecurity. Her father lived 3 blocks away under his new identity, consulting for legitimate businesses now. No more secrets. Alessandro visited every Sunday for family dinner, an odd tradition, but one that was growing on all of them. The evidence remained secure, locked behind multiple layers of encryption and fail-safes. Salerno had indeed been arrested, thanks to her mother's testimony and some careful leaking of information that couldn't be traced back to them. The Bratva had left them alone, as had the other families. An uneasy peace, but peace, nonetheless. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Alessandro, bringing dessert tonight. Dad's requesting your apple pie. How did I get stuck with the most domestic mafia family ever? She smiled and texted back, because you're stuck with us now. No returns, no exchanges. Wouldn't have it any other way, little sister. Maya set down her phone and looked out at the street below, at people living their normal lives, unaware of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, the secrets that powerful people kept. She'd been one of those normal people once, just a waitress trying to disappear. Now she was the keeper of secrets that could topple empires, the daughter of a man who'd lived 2 lives, the sister of a man who walked between 2 worlds. Her life would never be normal again. But as she pulled out her laptop to work on her latest cybersecurity project, legitimately helping companies protect their data now, Maya realized she didn't want normal. She wanted real. She wanted honest. She wanted family, complicated and messy and dangerous as it was. And that's exactly what she had. The doorbell rang. Alessandro and her father, early as always, both of them arguing about baseball as they walked in, as if they'd been doing this their whole lives instead of just 6 months. That's my dad, Maya said softly, watching them both, claiming them both. And for the first time in 2 years, she was completely, perfectly happy. The end.